By the way, have you heard back from Berkeley yet?
Then he went on to Berkeley, was assistant professor, showed amazing potential.
Professor Saunders over in Berkeley.
Dr. Oppenheimer's file contained detail of his activities in Berkeley.
I'm supposed to go to Berkeley.
Right. I made a couple of calls to Berkeley.
She knows I went to Berkeley.
You mentioned Berkeley.
If Beth killed Johnny Boz to frame Catherine, she wouldn't want anybody to know what happened in Berkeley.
Was that snake Hollingsworth still teaching there when you went through Berkeley?
Returning to America, I accepted positions at both Caltech and up at Berkeley.
Not at Berkeley.
Can you see my Aunt Tess's face when this one tells us one or two of the words I've picked up at Berkeley?
Say, Elaine gets down from Berkeley on Saturday.
Keep the rad lab here at Berkeley, under Lawrence.
According to your book, you ended up at UC Berkeley.
I'm trying to get into Berkeley next year.
Katie, you're a valet driver with an honors degree from Berkeley.
Gus, get out to Berkeley.
No police report from Berkeley.
Yeah?
So, you were at Berkeley?
I have sampled the Berkeley political scene.
Tuesdays, I take a course in general semantics at Berkeley.
The security officer at Berkeley is concerned about communist infiltration through that union to FA.
FAC.
What about to Anderson, Montgomery, Berkeley?
Mr. Berkeley, you may begin.
June the 16th, you checked into the Sherwin Hotel in Pittsburgh as Mr. George Kaplan of Berkeley, California.
I thought Berkeley had the leading theoretical physics department.
We think $20 million ought to be enough to secure a jury in the People's Republic of Berkeley, California, let alone here.
I'd like to remind you what we talked about in Berkeley.
And Eric's gonna get into Berkeley.
Berkeley, that explains it.
He also holds classes in constitutional law at Berkeley.
Why don't we split and see if there's any action up at the Berkeley Museum?
Okay.
Hey, Ben, Elaine's coming down from Berkeley soon.
Greetings from Berkeley.
I want to know why you're here in Berkeley.
He's been contacting government scientists on the internet, asking questions about our particle accelerator in Berkeley.
Berkeley? What are the chances that we're both from Berkeley?
Berkeley told us about this new kind of zombie that's stronger and faster and deadlier and better adapted to the hunt.
I appeal to Berkeley and Delahaye.
I'm going up to Berkeley today.
I got into Berkeley!
See, I had some trouble locating your school records at UCLA and Berkeley.
So, what are you gonna do this year now that you're not going to Berkeley?
I met her at Berkeley.
And they went to Berkeley.
I want you to come to Berkeley with me.
Somebody I met at Berkeley.
You didn't study at Berkeley.
Your son just burned down half of Berkeley!
Berkeley coach was impressed, and he promised to keep in touch.
I grew up in Mexico City, and even I knew Berkeley. You wouldn't last 2 days at Berkeley.
Berkeley.
The Busby Berkeley musical.
I'm going to Berkeley, and I won't get to do this for a while.
There's this huge meet coming up next month, and the Berkeley coach is coming down to watch.
Thought Berkeley had to accept me.
Berkeley, Cal Arts. Do you have an agricultural school at Berkeley?
Yeah. Back in the 60s, he was part of the free speech movement at Berkeley.
It would involve interviewing people in the Berkeley area.
There was no Lisa Overman when you were at Berkeley.
Well, you're going to Berkeley, so it doesn't matter.
You said Berkeley?
I used to teach courses in expressionism at Berkeley.
Berkeley, in the film school.
Wesley and I live together in Berkeley, and he's the president of the Berkeley chapter of SDS.
Now, Elaine used to run an organic beauty store in Berkeley with her husband, Jerry.
Yeah, at Berkeley.
Doing this our whole lives it's way better than a full ride to Berkeley.
Karen's gonna go to Berkeley.
So what time do you want to leave for Berkeley next week?
I live in Berkeley and
4 years at Berkeley, MBA, crippling student loans.
Stole my mother's car and trailer and burned down half of Berkeley.
Berkeley, what about your Somalis?
Coming up next, the top qualifiers from UC Berkeley.
I would be so glad to come to Berkeley.
Thought you wanted to go to Berkeley.
Next up, ladies and gentlemen, from UC Berkeley, Dan.
Well, in your statement, you say your attack on Petty Officer Berkeley was provoked by a racial slur.
A pop in Switzerland, a little Unix box in the University of Montana, 5 different routers at Berkeley.
The Berkeley police know that you set that fire.
So have you heard from Berkeley yet?
Have you thought any more about your Berkeley spot?
When you get your scholarship to Berkeley, she's off to the University of Colorado, right?
I studied architecture in Berkeley and came to Los Angeles about a year ago to look for work.
Well, the Wookalar was a ghost in the Berkeley Mountain Mystery.
Now you can reapply at Berkeley.
There's got to be somebody at Berkeley who knows what the hell happened.
I expect you'll find it neatly parked and polished and pretty in Berkeley Square.
You knew she got accepted into Berkeley, didn't you?
I'll come to Berkeley anytime, Stone.
Back then, our big thrill was going to this thing they called the Homebrew Club in Berkeley.
Berkeley is an hour up the road.
No, Mrs. Berkeley, I hope we meet again now that we have a bearskin rag in common.
I studied at Berkeley.
Stanford or Berkeley?
I thought of them often, but it was more than a year before I took the 8-hour bus ride down from Berkeley.
No more scholarship meant no more Berkeley.
What is that, some Berkeley shrink thing?
No!
Berkeley in those days was ground zero.
I'm Enid Wexler, got a PhD from Berkeley in Women's Studies, emphasis in the history of combat.
The free speech movement had happened at Berkeley years earlier.
Peter tried to talk me into going to Berkeley, but my heart was set on the East Coast.
Time, Newsweek, Berkeley Barb.
You went to Berkeley?
We're old friends and associates going back to Berkeley.
The men were from your graduating class at Berkeley.
It reminded me of my Berkeley days, fighting the good fight.
So you got accepted to Berkeley?
Now, since we saw you at the Berkeley seminar last year, I will your every wife. Make sure to bring her to Paris.
Do you know the best part about you getting into Berkeley?
I got out in Berkeley when I was competing in the X Games.
I'm an artist, so
maybe we should.
I didn't really have the same reaction.
I mean, this isn't Berkeley.
She taught Russian history at Berkeley. I mean, my friends at Berkeley are nice and everything, but it's kind of boring.
My mother was Christian, but she didn't really take me or my sister to church, and my father was a Berkeley hippie.
We did experiments like that at Berkeley.
So a friend of mine from Berkeley, she was staying with us, right?
Well, I graduated Berkeley in the summer of love.
So then come to Berkeley with me.
You went back to Berkeley or whatever.
He writes literary nightmares about Berkeley undergrads pulling out Uzis at People's Park.
Don't even get me started on Berkeley.
She got this great job out UC Berkeley.
You're not going to Berkeley, Jules?
But Berkeley is a great school, and if I keep my grades up, I can transfer to Stanford.
I burned down Berkeley for you.
The Berkeley coach called my house the other night.
I was at Pierce College for 2 years, and then I went to Berkeley.
How's Berkeley?
How about Dr. Ernest Snow, Berkeley Press?
I'm supposed to go to Berkeley.
Actually, an old classmate of mine from Berkeley. And her sister's coming down from Berkeley tomorrow.
I am, but I'm going to Berkeley, so.
Yeah, well, where he needs to go is Central Vita Preschool in Berkeley.
Just say goodbye to Berkeley or UCLA?
Students at Berkeley?
Okay, well, sorry, I went to Berkeley, so we did, numbers were just shapes.
I bought it at the flea market in Berkeley.
He was convinced that the United States were tilted on all the crap, dirt, and filth slid towards California, Berkeley.
Getting to come to these swanky dinner parties, rubbing shoulders with the Berkeley elite.
I'm thinking of doing some moonlighting over at the appliance store in Berkeley, so.
Most guys are just parroting whatever bullshit their Berkeley professors told them.
Yeah. Maybe I should just go to Berkeley and take advantage of the in-state tuition break, huh?
You can go to Berkeley to chop vegetables.
He's been working with the 7 Mile crew that killed that jeweler down in Berkeley.
Did a couple of Busby Berkeley pictures.
Anyway, there is an awful lot of evidence piling up, so.
That's something you studied up at Berkeley, Chris?
It was Berkeley, you know.
I think the Berkeley monster was a real man.
No, my point being that, you know, get into Berkeley, maybe you can come to school here.
A suspect in last September's massive fire in downtown Berkeley.
I wanted to go to Berkeley.
Just last week at the Berkeley tournament, she tried to gouge my eyes out with her fingernails.
And we know all about what you did in Berkeley, young man.
So I guess it's goodbye Berkeley and hello real world.
There's no doubt in my mind that you're going to go to Berkeley.
I wanted to go to Berkeley.
My father was professor of social psychology, Berkeley.
Up here at Berkeley.
We're leaving Berkeley because some imaginary voice tells you to uproot our lives.
Catherine Ross has just married this really cool guy, tall, blonde, incredibly popular, the makeout king of his fraternity in Berkeley.
Back in Berkeley, my life returned to normal, which for me was mostly work, staying up all night with the help of amphetamines.
Yeah, I met him last year at a paleo earthquake seminar at Berkeley, and somehow I became his new best friend.
He's from Berkeley.
The chairman of our scientific advisory board and the Sidney Levitt Professor of Theoretical Physics at Berkeley, Dr. Bernard Wax.
We'd like to keep all of them here, but we're probably going to have to send his brain to Cambridge, the spinal ganglia to Berkeley.
So is she going to go to Berkeley or?
It's from Berkeley.
He said he'd report me to Berkeley. Yeah, love Berkeley.
I'm gonna have everything set up for us by the time you're ready to start Berkeley.
When he first met Alice, he had just got his doctorate at Berkeley.
This isn't a Busby Berkeley fantasy, make you a star kid and all that.
And I live not far from the North Berkeley BART station.
Champs-Élysées. At Berkeley, California. On the Washington Mall.
I don't know, maybe if Aiden were more excited about school or if he ended up deciding to,
Go to Berkeley?
Maybe Berkeley wasn't dead.
It doesn't work out. You can always find me in Berkeley.
Berkeley must want you pretty bad to put up 1,000 for your hide.
I went to Berkeley.
I have a degree from Berkeley, and he's talking about me like I am trash.
So, Katie, how are you liking Berkeley?
In a way, it's good I didn't tell Peter until I heard from Berkeley.
Then why aren't you going to Berkeley?
You can see you learned to paint in state prison, not at Berkeley.
Does Berkeley play?
Berkeley?
You're from Berkeley? This time at Berkeley.
To get into top-tier colleges like UC Berkeley and Harvard, you really need to wow them with your personal essay. Taught at Berkeley.
I'm actually flying to San Francisco tomorrow to start my PhD at Berkeley.
You're doing that Berkeley thing again.
This isn't Berkeley.
This is Miss Berkeley.
Coming up to Berkeley sometime.
I live in Berkeley.
Actually, I live in Berkeley.
I mean, I've heard of three-way relationships, but they're mostly in Berkeley.
Playing Fred's unnamed friend, whom we saw earlier in the Berkeley sequence, is Raymond McKee.
Senior lecturer in English, Berkeley University.
UC Berkeley is this totally dope, completely amazing school in Northern California.
Getting away from my parents, being on my own in Berkeley.
Well, I just think that you could take all the awards you win and use them in Berkeley.
I thought you wanted to go to UC Berkeley.
She's in town visiting from Berkeley.
Our Cat Berkeley displays a level of athletic skill and agility that has made them virtually uncatchable.
You know, I used to work in an industrial laundry when I was an undergraduate at Berkeley.
Does everyone in Berkeley just have a hard-on for New York?
Just 2 more years, and we will be safely tucked away in a lab at Berkeley.
The Berkeley Kennedy demonstrators.
With plotting to bomb public buildings in Chicago, Detroit, New York, and Berkeley, California.
He single-handedly established this underground gambling ring at UC Berkeley.
Went to Berkeley on a lacrosse scholarship.
We met at Berkeley.
Well, I ain't because I want to get you a Berkeley card.
I met Eric the summer before my senior year at Berkeley.
I hold degrees from CCNY, Berkeley, and Cambridge.
When I was organizing my first BN against the war, a lot was expected of us at Berkeley, baby.
Come to Berkeley?
Yes.
Dad, the Berkeley monster did come after you.
Well, what if I went to Berkeley instead?
She just got her master's at Berkeley.
But have you decided between Berkeley and UCLA?
How fast to get a scholarship to UC Berkeley?
In the shadows of Berkeley.
I'm a postdoc from Berkeley.
That night in Berkeley. I don't want to go to Berkeley.
Yeah, I'm going Berkeley.
Berkeley Earth, it was called.
Hey, they've got the Berkeley bar.
If you went to Berkeley, you could live at home and you could save some money.
The police have recovered his car at the Berkeley Square train station.
Go back to Berkeley.
I've consulted with Richard Offshee, a professor at Berkeley.
Well, like most of Berkeley, he is still asleep, so.
I'm following up on your decision regarding Berkeley.
Hopefully we have enough to get us to Berkeley.
It's called Berkeley Springs.
Busby Berkeley was not full of flowers.
And your mom told me about Berkeley.
Berkeley hasn't changed you a bit.
Berkeley, can I catch a ride with you just as far as Boulder?
You sure about Berkeley, LJ?
She's going to Berkeley next fall.
That was
You say Berkeley?
I work at the Berkeley Art Cinema.
But he wouldn't sign unless I got Pat Berkeley to write his copy.
His brother is being recruited by UC Berkeley for football.
Just seen her at Berkeley, man.
Now, I want you to be quite at home here, Miss Berkeley.
Berkeley Medical, graduate school.
Berkeley campus, 500 students were arrested as they surrounded a recruiter from Dow Chemical.
We can have the lecture up at Berkeley.
I tried coke while I was at Berkeley, and I cheated on my girlfriend.
After all these years in Berkeley, you still haven't tried it.
These are detectives Harris and Berkeley.
It's sort of like a wet Busby Berkeley routine, only it gives the farmers a chance to see a lot of floating boobs.
We're nearly out of Berkeley now.
Berkeley doesn't have any records of him.
I'm gonna take the job in Berkeley.
And I'm sorry you can't be real, but I've kept it real with you the whole time and you couldn't even tell me about Berkeley.
We saw this ad in this Berkeley bar. Didn't they teach you that at Berkeley? Actually, I'm not sure I'm gonna enroll in Berkeley for my master's.
Berkeley and UCLA.
Those two dumbasses couldn't find a safe space on campus at UC Berkeley.
Are you heading to Berkeley?
Oh, Alan's been up in Berkeley on the Mars.
I got accepted to the University of California at Berkeley.
I never went back to Berkeley.
No, we were at Berkeley in '68.
When he didn't get into Berkeley, he was at least excited about that.
I'm not going to Berkeley.
Yeah, I went to Berkeley for a minute.
A record store clerk in Berkeley will have many troubles.
This is coming from the guy that went to Berkeley and lived in San Francisco for 10 years.
You know, you see Berkeley if I get in, or, you know, you should really be downing some water because...
Drop me in Berkeley Square.
You're not gonna get all high-tone Berkeley on me, are you?
This Berkeley bullshit isn't gonna work on me.
I feel like I'm leaving him all alone at
She had an acceptance letter to Berkeley.
What do you want me to say about Berkeley? My parents finally let me apply, and then I went to the audition and I bombed it?
I'd like to make an appointment to see the house on Berkeley.
People pretending they're in Berkeley or some fancy shit.
Attending the University of Fruits, Flakes, and Nuts up there in Berkeley, California are redefining rape. I got scholarship to Berkeley.
Listen, Berkeley.
Yeah.
I spend almost all my time in Berkeley.
I'm still mad at him for not applying to Berkeley.
I should forget Berkeley or UCLA for now and work and go to community college.
We went out of Berkeley, kind of hit it off, and later partnered up on a couple of tech sector startups.
Oh. What if the Berkeley thing goes away?
I majored in natural science at Berkeley, but my father always complained I was majoring in climbing.
Got accepted to Berkeley Law School.
Well, the Wookalar was a ghost in the Berkeley Mountain Mystery.
You're liking Berkeley?
Yesterday I was assigned Palo Alto day before Berkeley.
He's associated with the political groups in Berkeley, but hasn't done much here except run his mouth.
I've never heard of her, and I've lived here all my life, except those 2 years at Berkeley.
Since Max deigned to do a semester at Berkeley.
Yeah.
Honorable discharge, 1972, UC Berkeley Journalism School, San Francisco Examiner Foreign Desk.
All my friends live in Berkeley.
That theater company in Berkeley keeps calling, even though I told them I'm unavailable.
Tell Coach I'm looking to play at Berkeley and UC Davis.
My friend Nicholas Brady, who in his own way tried to save the world, lived in Berkeley practically his whole life.
Well, this is your office, Miss Berkeley.
You know, he went to University of Berkeley, and when I was a child, we came to visit him, and he took my parents wine tasting, and he had the hots for back in Berkeley.
I have painstakingly coordinated my Berkeley schedule with your Rhode Island School of Design schedule.
Top of the class at Berkeley.
Busby Berkeley traded me for the role.
From Berkeley? Yes.
Are you sure in Berkeley?
This Berkeley chick may be cute, but she's crazy as fuck.
Berkeley in the 60s.
How long are you gonna be in Berkeley?
You remember when we were at graduate school at Berkeley together?
Berkeley would be impressed.
Yes, to the Berkeley School for the Deaf and the Blind.
All right, let's talk about Berkeley.
I'm going to the Berkeley Tie-Dye and Hacky Sack Festival.
Berkeley campus?
My wife has another 1,040 in Berkeley.
I'm Patricia Berkeley now.
He just passed away, and we did a documentary together up in Berkeley, California.
I got a letter from Berkeley.
So I graduated from Berkeley.
You know, I was thinking, Berkeley at night, it's loud enough somebody would hear.
I don't go to Berkeley.
I might even apply to Berkeley.
Person at Berkeley that I've been talking to. Do you really have to go back to Berkeley?
I picked this up at Berkeley.
At colleges, you know, principally at Berkeley. But
There was a disturbance today on the campus at the University of California at Berkeley.
I'll be right down the road at Berkeley.
College. Berkeley.
It's Berkeley. Huh? Well, I first met Mel in 1962 at Berkeley.
How was Berkeley?
I want that keeping us out of Berkeley.
Don't hang around me in Berkeley, all right?
I left for a little, went to school up in Berkeley.
And because he got fired up through first, he got admitted to college and graduated from Berkeley.
I got a degree at Berkeley, and then I worked at UC Davis, and then I got a job at UC Riverside, and then I moved back to Pennsylvania and got a job at Carnegie Mellon.
In case you had forgotten, the daughter is attending UC Berkeley, and the obvious station from which to leave for the 3-day...
Into Berkeley.
This is just Berkeley jibber-jabber.
He got his PhD from Berkeley at 20.
Well, I'm going to Berkeley, so...
That's not the plan, bro.
Berkeley, man.
Years 1963 and 1967 at the University of California at Berkeley. You and...
That is to say, Busby Berkeley.
Oh, Berkeley, that's a really good school.
Welcome back to the KZPZ Berkeley broadcast of the Zenda Inc.
The Army is preventing anyone from entering or leaving the town of Berkeley.
Yeah, I'm just gonna go drop my car off back in Berkeley.
His son just started his freshman year at Berkeley.
What is this, some Berkeley shit?
No, not Berkeley, no.
So you went to Berkeley, huh?
My senior thesis at Berkeley.
Harvey stole his line of thinking from Berkeley, who asked the same question 44 years earlier with his treatise on the principles of human knowledge.
I'm going to Berkeley to get my master's in urban reproductive recycling. Oh, you really went full Berkeley on me.
You mean she doesn't know that you're coming up to Berkeley?
Oh, well, I did want to name it Taco Gandhi, but some guy up in Berkeley already registered the name, so Taco Gondo.
Some countries, they chop down trees to bond, but I didn't think, Berkeley would be too good with that.
Probably my dream, honestly, would be to apply to Berkeley.
It wasn't until I got my acceptance letter to Berkeley.
Deanna is a recent graduate of UC Berkeley, and she's here to take my job.
You went to Berkeley?
From San Francisco, graduate of Berkeley.
I'm going to my favorite music store in Berkeley over on Coolidge.
General Martin knows there isn't room for them, Berkeley.
Let me go to Berkeley.
Berkeley!
You're going to Berkeley?
I heard you going back to Berkeley to finish up graduate school.
I thought you were a lady in Berkeley.
There was a check for $400 made out to a Mr. Buzz Berkeley.
I mean, besides, if I'm gonna go to Berkeley with you next year, you need to get over this.
She's at Berkeley.
Tunneled our way through many Busby Berkeley biographies, and this film is not mentioned in any of them, and the Marxists don't mention him except in a kind of friendly way that they knew him and admired his work.
There's one in Marina, one in Berkeley or some shit.
The guy I went to Berkeley with.
In economics, Berkeley, 2001.
What are you gonna do if she gets into Berkeley and not into Notre Dame or Georgetown?
Berkeley and UCLA.
I couldn't help wondering if I should have chosen Berkeley with Lee instead.
I want to go to Berkeley so bad.
What is this obsession with Berkeley?
You should show him Berkeley.
Good morning, UC Berkeley.
But the truth was, I was leaving him, no matter how much I wanted to be at Berkeley with him too.
UC Berkeley just tweeted.
I told you, USC at Berkeley.
Berkeley.
UC Berkeley?
Berkeley.
Berkeley, Mom.
We're giving a lecture at Berkeley later today.
What do you say to a graduate of the UC Berkeley physics department?
How far is it, my lord, to Berkeley now?
I'm at Berkeley now, but yeah, how'd you know?
Welcome to a beautiful day at Lake Washington for the annual showdown between the Washington Huskies and the Cal Bears of Berkeley in the Pacific Coast Regatta.
It feels like it was just a few days ago that I was braiding Kim's hair. And now she has 1 year left at Berkeley.
Berkeley, huh?
Well, FYI, I am also an engineer with a degree from Berkeley.
Accepted at Berkeley. Accepted at
Graduated Berkeley with honors.
She keeps talking about Berkeley.
Maybe I should just go to Berkeley.
I'm sorry I knew this coming in Berkeley.
UC Berkeley.
It's none of my business, but there was a gap in your profile before Berkeley. My point is, Dr. Phillips, Professor Emeritus of Public Law at Berkeley.
Maybe even try out for Oberlin in Berkeley.
You never finished your last semester at Berkeley.
Well, I'm also a degree in computer science from Berkeley, guy, where Donna went with honors and top grades to make your penis shrivel.
Leonard, I've been working on an opening joke for our lecture at Berkeley.
Well, I have a PhD in physics from Berkeley.
I chose Boston to be with Noah and Berkeley to be with you.
If I can get in there, that means I probably can get into Berkeley. Graduated Berkeley.
1315 Berkeley Street.
When you first got back to New York and I said that you could stay here, to be honest, I thought you'd go back to Berkeley with Carl.
What you think, Berkeley?
Mark O'Brien has been going to UC Berkeley since 1978.
We met at UC Berkeley.
Are you a Berkeley guy?
It's anything to get her off of this Berkeley kick.
The whole earth is becoming Berkeley, California.
Are you still in Berkeley?
Oh, you smell like Berkeley, Gordon.
Oh, please, she's a loudmouth Berkeley bitch.
It's like a Busby Berkeley musical. It's wet.
I'm here. I'm in Berkeley.
Kopechne, Berkeley Heights, New Jersey, I think.
When I graduated from Berkeley in '75 with a degree in computer science, nobody batted an eye.
Well, Adelita speaks 3 languages and is going to Stanford or Berkeley in a year. But I'll tell you what I'm not going to pay for, and that's Berkeley.
He was really hoping that the furthest I'd go would be Berkeley.
I told her I go to Berkeley, and if she asks, I'm going to say that I'm 20.
We just decided to drive up from Berkeley today. But it's fine, because I got into Berkeley, and I know that's not what we planned, but it's only an hour away, and I'm going to get better at driving, and we can spend the weekends together.
And in it are the lords of York, Berkeley, and Seymour.
We can confirm that Berkeley is the only community to be bombarded with these fragments.
So is he going to Berkeley too?
Stanford. My point is, Dr. Phillips, Professor Emeritus of Public Law at Berkeley.
I just came up here from Berkeley.
Everything was actually très joli until Dylan found out he didn't get into Berkeley.
When I talk about Berkeley, she barely made it over the George Washington Bridge.
I had the same jeweler in Berkeley make one up and send it out to the office.
Everything was perfect, but then Dylan found out he didn't get into Berkeley. You really want to go to Berkeley, don't you?
Everyone in Berkeley is so serious and into jogging and wearing Tevas.
I'm not in Berkeley.
I think your writing's incredible, and, well, Berkeley could do a lot worse.
Started out as a student radical at Berkeley in the 60s.
Conway Stewart, doctorate in theoretical physics, Berkeley, studied under Bernstein, who called him brilliant but irritating.
Mr. Berkeley?
A little bugger of a waterborne virus that seems to have made its debut at the Berkeley Water Treatment Facility.
Lived together at Berkeley.
You know, I was thinking, maybe in a few years I'll come to Berkeley.
Oh, Madame, Berkeley.
You're living in some sort of commune, like those crazy people you hear about in Berkeley.
I haven't had a rush like that since the Berkeley riots. Mr. Berkeley?
He founded a free press in the 60s, and he's worked on every liberal rag from Cambridge to Berkeley ever since. I'm going to Berkeley with you.
Even then, when I was in Berkeley, I would see something and just see kilobytes or circuit boards, while he'd see karma.
I mean, if I got into Stanford or Berkeley.
Well, listen, Claire, I wouldn't pack your bags for Berkeley just yet.
He's from the Berkeley water plant?
I figure if I'm going to be going to Berkeley, I'm going to have to learn to do this thing anyway.
But then, somewhere along the way, we were invaded by a bunch of Berkeley flag-burning commies.
Just don't go too berserkly up in Berkeley.
I got to go to Berkeley for the weekend to see a professor friend of mine, so I thought we'd just make a weekend of it. Am I going to transfer to Berkeley, or are you going to come and sign up at C? And then yesterday, when she showed up at my house with 2 tickets for us to go to Berkeley.
If happiness means the whole world standing on a double layer of foot deodorizers, Berkeley will see that they get them.
Charlie and I met once upon a time when I was getting my PhD in psychology at Berkeley, and he was working at a vineyard in Napa. This way I can check out Berkeley, and you'll be there to help me.
Nico, meet my 2 dearest flowers. Felicity going to Berkeley and Tilly going to Columbia.
You'd rather go to Berkeley, huh?
You guys are all killing it academically, but I want you to know there's more to life than just getting into UC Berkeley.
You still worried some Berkeley girl's gonna steal him away?
They were causing tremors in Berkeley again.
If you want to go to Berkeley instead of UCLA, I support you.
You're just in time for one of my favorites, Trudy Sharp from Berkeley Park.
Jill gave up an Albright scholarship to Berkeley to follow you around the world.
So I'm going to see a professor friend in Berkeley this weekend.
Spread beyond Berkeley and across the country.
If it doesn't sell, Berkeley won't renew.
No, I mean, I saw you speak in Berkeley in '61.
So Eltonton made his approach through a member of the faculty here at Berkeley.
2.5 semesters at Berkeley.
So I heard this story about this guy who went to Berkeley, and every night when he would go to sleep, he would wake up and his ass would be sore.
When we got hit here in Berkeley, I began triangulating the information.
We go up to Berkeley, we'll find an apartment, get set up. Berkeley, Yale Law.
Between my family and the job and just trying to make it up to Lee after lying about Berkeley.
He stood on a car at Berkeley and screamed whatever came into his head.
Well, while I have been talking, the action moves to Berkeley, California, and we meet Mae McAvoy playing the daughter Jeannie Wilton.
It's not that far from Berkeley as the crow flies. I've requested that you come up to Berkeley next week to be part of the final strategy session.
They think we're going to Berkeley?
4 years ago, when Berkeley, on the 50th anniversary of the free speech movement there on the Berkeley campus, invited me to be the keynote speaker at the graduation.
The last 6 months he's going to have it in Berkeley.
Now, a few years ago, some brilliant neuroscientists from Berkeley figured out a way to decode the images our minds process. What we see.
He went to UC Berkeley.
Graduated from Berkeley, volunteers at a dog adoption center.
You went to Berkeley, didn't you?
He's getting into Berkeley, early admission.
Wait, you went to UC Berkeley?
You once held a reception for me in Berkeley. I was working on this in Berkeley.
With Mark O'Brien at UC Berkeley, Bill Hillman, Channel 5 Eyewitness News.
Widower, 1 kid, son at Berkeley.
Well, Steve and I found this weird guy who was a hero around Berkeley. All because he found a way to beat the system.
I want to get that job offer in the mail from Berkeley and become a psychology professor, work with brilliant people and just dig in for the next 40 years.
Ben went to Berkeley and double majored in business and botany.
Actually, it was nice to know that Lee would have a friend when he got to Berkeley.
My girl, your girl, the whole Berkeley student body.
Lily's remained the same as she continues to cause turmoil, but now as a graduate student at Berkeley, which she calls Berserkly.
Shut your eyes and see.
Yes.
Mesopotamia.
Mesopotamia.
Meeting Busby Berkeley.
And Oakland, Berkeley, the whole Bay Area.
Ben Steadicam onto the piano, push into the saloon girls, slide up to the leg, and now we're doing a Busby Berkeley.
The University of California, Berkeley, offers me both.
She thought Berkeley might be a good place for a new start, and I was hoping the same thing.
Berkeley College of Music.
Berkeley University.
She has a degree in creative writing from Berkeley.
I studied ancient weaponry at Berkeley.
I'm a graduate of Berkeley.
Back around 1985, Berkeley, California seemed like an oasis in a country that had become polarized and divided.
And for us, when it comes to college, that means the University of California at Berkeley.
Well, I was just finishing a course in electronics at Berkeley, and a friend of mine who's only slightly crazier than I am liked my ideas, so...
And they tell me 187 was his IQ before he enrolled at Berkeley Satellite Campus and started smoking everything in sight. When I was still at Berkeley, I kept making some weird electronic gadgets that were basically just jokes.
Both Berkeley and Harvard.
Sang in Berkeley Square.
Next up is a letter from a Miss Vera Berkeley. It's in the style of the sort of Busby Berkeley, so it's a big kind of production number. But it's okay, because even though I didn't get into Stanford, I still might get into Berkeley or UCLA, which are only a few hours away.
Oh, what a wonderful day to be fancy, free and roll.
First up is LaFontaine and Perry, who, as you'll recall, transferred to occult studies at Berkeley and then started LaFerry Industries, where they've been revolutionizing life for the supernatural with products like their...
I was only supposed to stay a few days and then return to Berkeley, where my boyfriend was waiting on me.
Busby Berkeley.